Hey YouTube, Truth here, and I just wanted to make a video that was apart from all the messed up Christian stories that I've been reading on the internet. So instead I'm just going to transition to making a video response to a story I saw on Fox News. Yeah, you like where this is going already, right? I will leave a link to the story in the description box down below, but for the basic gist of the story, it's essentially that there was a steel crossbeam that was preserved at the site of 9/11, and many people found it as a source of inspiration. I guess many Christians found it as a source of inspiration, and so the museum that was meant to give tribute to this event, it was a memorial museum, wanted to use this steel-shaped beam that was preserved from 9/11 as an artifact, and many atheists are objecting to that. Oh, but Truth, you're an atheist. Of course you're going to side with other atheists on this, right? Well, hold your horses. I wouldn't make assumptions just yet. But first of all, why am I even doing this? I mean, doesn't this sound like something that's really petty to some of you? Well, it might, and in a sense, to me, I honestly believe it is. At one instance, it is, but at the same time, it's these little things that should be addressed so that the bigger picture can be realized. So the first point brought up was that because the museum isn't state-owned, it does not have an obligation to represent all faiths equally, as mandated by the separation between church and state. And personally, I thought that Dave Silverman's response to that was fairly accurate, though. That because this is built on public land, that it is funded by taxpayers' dollars, that we atheists should have an equal say in what goes on with this memorial. And not just atheists, but members of other faiths as well. And as selfish as this sounds, it's only rational, it's only reasonable that we deserve equal say. So if you're a Christian, I don't think that you would be very happy if all of your taxpayers' dollars were being spent on building mosques and random temples that you don't really take advantage of. So you have every right to complain. Why don't we? Why don't other people of other faiths have the right to complain as well? So then the reporter of this case, named Megyn Kelly, then asked, well, you don't have a symbol that was found in the rubble of 9/11, so you can't exactly complain. Which I think she missed the point entirely. It's not like we atheists really give a shit about having our representation and seeing a big large A in the middle of the museum, or like a fish. It's just that we want equal representation, as with all other faiths. And we know that while that's impractical, it's only reasonable. Either represent all or you represent none. I'm also pretty sure that Miss Kelly and others like her wouldn't be so keen if they found a star-shaped piece of metal found in the rubble. Or I'm sure you could. Or maybe like a crescent-shaped piece of cement. So the third reason why Miss Kelly seems to think this cross should be kept in the museum is because historically people prayed at the grounds of 9/11. Well, first of all, this is a memorial museum, not a history museum. But that's a fairly minor point compared to, well, the only reason why it's being kept is that the fact that it is a religious symbol. There's no other way I can put it. The fact that a priest was hired there to make some religious ceremony out of it, that people worship it as if it were a real cross, the fact that so many things have been done to it that really make it signify Christianity and the cross of Jesus, it shows that it is a religious symbol. And that if we got another random piece of scrap metal from 9/11 in reference to the events of that day, then all these people would start bitching. So then some guy who supposedly survived the 9/11 attacks and was there at the time comes on the show and says, well, I'm so offended that atheists are so offended at this. He cites a quote from George Washington and says, well, atheists are just trying to bring down the pillars of morality, and they're trying to do this one step at a time through these frivolous lawsuits and trivial manners. So it goes without saying that a person's religiosity or lack thereof is not in any way tied with their morality. But I personally find it a growing trend, and it has always existed, but it's growing now. And I'd hate to single out any groups, but it seems to be a growing trend that these fundie American Christians seem to be having this holier-than-thou attitude by thinking that they have some sort of higher moral standing than everyone else, just for the sole reason that they are Christian. And I find that extremely distasteful. And as an atheist living in Canada, a good chunk of my money goes towards religious institutions that I don't even use, and therefore shouldn't be forced to support. This isn't anything new, atheists. And as much as I don't care, I think the main reason why I don't support this is because I think that, especially in America, some Christians really need to get their heads leveled. And what do I mean by that? I mean that when we atheists try and fight this as an equal rights protection, like equal representation, they're all on our asses like, well, oh, why are you fighting this? It's something so petty, blah, blah, blah. But then when a very peaceful group tries to build a mosque near Ground Zero, they're all screaming bloody murder. Honestly, if this symbolism really means that much to you, then allow me to rain on your parade by asking you, if this is the God you pray for in times of trial and tribulations, is this not the same God that allowed thousands of people to die that day, and millions more to suffer and grieve the lost family, friends, and loved ones? Is this not the same God that's directly responsible, and at the very least the overzealous worship of this God that was responsible for this tragedy occurring? I mean, if anything, this is a symbolism that either your God failed to provide on these protection that he so lovingly bestowed upon us, or that he doesn't care, or maybe that he doesn't exist. So you're telling me the best your God could do in this tragedy to intervene is to hand you guys 2 pieces of scrap metal shaped like a cross? Well, whoop-de-fucking-do. I know this is going to sound really biased, and there's no other way I can say it, but other than the fact that it's in poor taste and that it's honestly unconstitutional, the only other reason why I would really stand against this is because it seems to reinforce this sort of behavior that American Christians have, that they can do whatever the fuck they want at everyone else's expense and get away with it. We should stop it while we can, even if it might seem minor to some people. May the truth always be heard.